Childress needs to be taken out back and flogged. He's a stupid redneck who owes his entire fortune to NASCAR. That is what now NASCAR Commissioner Steve Phelps said about Richard Childress back in August of 2023 when NASCAR and the teams were deep in charter negotiations. This text was made public thanks to a bunch of other text messages because of the ongoing NASCAR lawsuit that were shared publicly for the first time on Friday. Bob Pockers, Matt Weaver, Kelly Crandall, and others tweeted everything out here. And Phelps wasn't happy with Richard Childress during this exchange of text messages that we got. It is worth noting that Steve Phelps did reach out to Richard Childress, apologize, let him know that this was coming out. So I think that's worth sharing for sure. It's also worth noting that these texts that we're reading right now will not be available at trial. The jury will not see these if it does in fact go to trial on December 1st. But we get another Phelps text about Childress where he said, Childress is an idiot. If they don't like the state of the sport, sell your charter and get out. Follows it up a couple messages later with, did I mention Childress is an idiot? He really wants to hammer home the point that he thinks that Richard Childress is stupid, an idiot. And well, reading this text right here that he says, if he's that angry, and apparently he is, sign your charter extension and sell. He's not that smart, is a dinosaur, and malcontent. He's worth a couple $100 million. Every dollar associated with NASCAR in some fashion, total ass clown. Now, people are calling for Steve Phelps to resign because he called Richard Childress a redneck, because he called Richard Childress an ass clown. I have no problem with this. If you don't think people in business, in negotiations, talk like this behind other people's backs, you're just completely naive. This isn't bad at all. Don't forget that Steve Loetta, the president of 2311 Racing, said that the best way forward was for Jim France to die. So, and again, out of context, both of these read really bad. But in context, I get what he's saying here. Phelps is talking about the TV deal and basically saying that Childress doesn't understand what the TV landscape, the media landscape is going to look like going forward here. And if he's not happy about it, not happy with the new car and the negotiations, then just sell and get out. Same thing with Loetta. Loetta understood that Jim France is the wall that is standing between what they want and, potentially convincing somebody else at NASCAR to give them what they want. Jim France very much in his lane on what he wants to do. But out of context, they both read really, really bad. I'm not trying to cover it for any side here. I'm just trying to come at this with a logical brain. At the end of the day, probably not the best thing you could have said about Richard Childress. Obviously, there's going to be people that share the same sort of sentiment here. But at the end of the day, Richard Childress still basically started from nothing, is now worth a couple $100 million. We can call him a dumb redneck. He can go out there and talk about how he's blue collar, even though he has a winery. Regardless, he still built something on the back of two generational towns for sure. But yeah, he's done a pretty good job in his career here. Both sides not happy with each other during the contract negotiations, during the charter negotiations. Both sides said some things. I don't think it's that bad.